right, what's up, guys? Welcome to episode 12 of the Squat Plug. We have a special guest today, Alexis Laville. No bullshit physio. He's in Montreal, Canada. I'm sure at least some of our audience is familiar with Alexis and his memes and his basic his notoriety on Instagram. But I'll turn it over to Alexis. I'll let him give you guys some background on himself and basically what led to this conversation today. So take it away, sir.
Hi. Well, as Mark mentioned, my name is Alexis. I work in Montreal as a PT. That's pretty much it. I don't know what else to say. Talking with Mark, because I talk to Mark like pretty much every day. I talk to him more than my dad, which now that I mention is kind of sad.
I mean, kind of, but it also makes me feel really good at the same time.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'd say he's a good friend. And yeah, we share memes and like papers together. And since he has a podcast now, he asked me to be on it. And I was glad to be on it. Yeah.
That's a fair intro. So what kind of patients do you see in Canada?
I'd say it's a wide variety. I work at a holistic clinic, so it's like quite interesting because sometimes people come to see me because of my page, which is like I always prefer because they kind of know what they're in for. But sometimes I get referrals from
how does that conversation start? Like when they walk into the clinic, are they like
they'll usually mention it. They're like, "Oh yeah, I follow you." Like, ha ha ha. Like, I like
nice memes, bro. How about you give me a massage?
Yeah, or they'll make a comment about like Squat U, and I'm like I know from there.
Yeah.
I try to keep it low key. Like, I never mention it to clients that I have like a 90% shit posting page and like 15% educational. I did the math the other day. That's how much. It's like 15% educational posts. Because they take longer. And then I'd say the rest is just, again, people might have just be like, they just don't really know what they're getting into. It's just a local person or people who get word of mouth. But then there's also this, I get a fair bunch of patients that are into it. I call it like woo-woo stuff, which is fine. It's just sometimes.
I mean, you know, you got to do
those are the most difficult ones for me.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So how do you generally approach a situation like that? Curious.
And what kind of situations of that nature have you encountered, if I may ask?
What was that question? Sorry.
And what kind of situations of that nature have you encountered? What kind of woo situations have you encountered?
Oh my God! I'm sure stories.
I don't know, like people who think that like manual therapy is mechanical effects, or that like they'll want a treatment even though I don't think it's useful in terms of like treatment. I don't get that many now because I'm like, if someone wants manual therapy, I'm just like, okay, but you're aware it only provides like short-term effects. And like, if we look at cost, it's probably not the most cost efficient and they're usually fine. And if they're fine, I'm like, okay, I'll just do it. And then if they want more, I'll just refer them to the guy next door. Because, I'm going to know there's a lot of osteos and massage therapists. I'm more than gladly refer to them if that's what they want, as long as the consent is informed. But I've had like cases where like I try to explain like the biopsychosocial model to people, and like I said the hardest cases I've had is people who like they just explain to me how their sacrum is out, and I just kind of explain how it's like physiologically like impossible. I'm like, it is possible, but like you'd have to have fallen like 6 stories or have some like major instability, or you'd probably be shitting your pants. And they just go like, no, I know my body. I'm like, okay.
My rib
and like
out.
My rib is out. Oh, I love hearing that.
Yeah, like usually I'll explain like one paper that is like just shows that it's not true. I think I like the Tolberg paper where it's like, yeah, these professionals have 20 years of experience were convinced they set it back, and then they look with Röntgen stereogrammetry or whatever. It's like a form of like very precise X-ray, and they're like, it didn't move like even by a millimeter. So it's like, I understand that you believe this, but and that you feel this, and that feeling is very real. It's just physiologically that's not what it is, and that has implications, because if you think your sacrum is out, you're not going to exercise, which is probably the most useful thing you can do when you're in pain with intolerance, to be clear.
So talk to us about the biosocial model, or like the model you described earlier and whatnot, and like how you break it down to people, because I'm sure many people that are listening in right now, are also wondering about like pain itself and like whether manual therapy helps out.
To be honest, I think this is a really good conversation to have, because as powerlifters, we know that there are a lot of people in the community with very similar beliefs, and they can take it to a pretty extreme, for improving pain symptoms, attempting to improve even recovery. So, I mean, if you want to talk about like the biopsychosocial model, how you explain that to patients, just maybe how you can like reframe their experience for them, or
sure,
help them understand it, I guess, a little better.
Yeah. I say the easiest way to start this is to explain how not to explain it. It's the way that like people like Brooke Bush or Squat U will say. Maybe not Squat U, but Brooke Bush definitely does that, where you'll say that we're just telling patients that the pain is all in their head. Like I might have done that as a student like once or twice, but then you realize it's kind of bullshit. So it's more like the way I try to introduce it is whenever my interview questions, when I start talking to the patients, one of the first things I ask is about like their sleep and their stress levels, and like put that stress level like on a 5, and let's say the last month, or like depending how long the pain's been. And usually what I'll say is, I'll validate the pain. I'll say like, these things are not the cause of your pain, but they could definitely mediate it. So if people don't know what like a mediating agent and a modulating agent, sorry. So that they're modulators of pain. So mediating is something that would cause something, and modulating is more like something that will affect how big it is. So if you think about it in like a light switch, it's like mediating is something that turns the light on and off. So that'll be like spraining your ankle, someone hitting you in the face, right? That causes the injury. You can have like genetic factors, but then the modulating factor is like the other part of the biopsychosocial model, like pressure at work, stress, and all that, even your diet, that can modulate it. So make it either greater or lesser. If those are well managed.
The light switch.
Yeah, the dimmer on the light switch, basically. So I'll kind of use like an image like that. And usually I think most patients are kind of aware. They'll say like, oh yeah, I'm sleeping poorly. Like it's no wonder that I don't recuperate.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, you don't usually people connect the dots themselves. It's rare that I have to like point it to them. It's like if you guys have ever been to therapy, it's kind of similar. Like the therapist barely has to talk and you make the link yourself.
I mean, that's the goal for therapy, correct?
Yeah. People usually retain the information better if you do it that way than if you give them a flood of information.
Fair,
I think.
No, for sure. I totally agree.
True. Wow. Well said.
So let's go back. I want to talk about manual therapy.
Yeah.
Only because I know we didn't really talk about discussing manual therapy, but you mentioned it. You mentioned it not really having any mechanical effects, and I just would like you to break that down a little more. Like, maybe certain belief. Like, what are the mechanical effects that people think that massage has, and then maybe tell us how those things are not happening.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's variable depending on the population you study, but if you look at usually studies, the most clearest studies we have is when they ask people what they think the popping sound is when you manipulate a spine. And I think I don't remember, it depends on the study. It can go from 17 to 40%. I think the latest study we have on this is the Bergamino study from this year that was done in Italy. And it's just that people think that you're actually putting the joint back in place, like the vertebra is just popping back in the right spot, if you say. That's obviously false, because otherwise, I mean, Aaron Kubal always uses that analogy, but you'd be dead. Like
if your vertebrae was just like just not it, like that, just like it's hard to even compute like that. You know what I mean? You're like, what do you mean? It's not.
And it can feel like this because it's like when you're in pain, like a different sensation can produce a lot of relief, but it's not. And I'd say it's good that it's not, because if you look at the papers from like McGill, I think it's a 2001 study from McGill. I don't know who the co-author was, but it might have been Bereznik. But they just manipulated the spine and they looked, I think through imaging, they looked at like what vertebrae were moving, and when there was a cavitation, like when the popping sound happens, it was at least like 2 to 3 levels in most cases. For the neck, I don't remember if the neck or the lumbar spine was more precise, but basically it would mean that
you had to try to yourself.
One level that's in the wrong place, they would, like most manipulations would put it in the wrong place, like even more, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it would be
Mhm.
kind of terrifying to go to Cairo because most people would get their shit rocked even worse, which is not the case. Like I think kind of cancel. I don't want to get it too much into like spinal manipulation, but usually I'd say it's like a slight edge for relief. I think I know, but like if you look at the latest review on this side, there's one pinned on my page, I think, but 40% of people will get worse pain as an adverse effect, but a little bit more than that will get pain relief. So the way I explain it, it's kind of like a coin toss. So it's like it might bring your pain one way or the other. I think it's biased. Like there's probably like a subset of the population that responds way better to it. People believe in it. Seem to be like the people that respond most to it, but that's true for like every intervention. People who don't believe in physio, they don't do well. People who don't believe in dry needling, they don't do well. I think that the Koluakalani study, it's a Hawaiian name, so I can't pronounce that. Sorry. They say I think it increases your chance of success if you believe in acupuncture by like 2 to 3 times.
Yeah, I mean that's not
Placebo.
really surprising at all. You know what I mean?
I don't even know if that's placebo or like a meeting
those
effect.
very potent contextual effects.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if you believe it might work. It might also be confounded by the fact.
I mean, if you
maybe
walk
it
into the
works for some
room and you
people
like
they
the
know.
color of the walls, it might work.
Yeah, that's actually one of the biggest factors to whether K-tape works is the color of the tape.
I mean, those are part of the contextual factors.
There's actually a physical therapist, quote unquote, who actually did this at a gym we used to attend in the past, who said there are certain spectrums or frequencies of color that enhance a person's recovery.
Oh my!
Are we talking about who?
Yes, we're talking about that guy.
Yeah, that's why hospitals are the same color.
Yeah. I'm going to drop his name. I think we can drop his name. The guy's name is Bod Mechanic. His IG handle, Andreas Saltis. He's on Instagram. He was talking about basically how certain colors and whatnot would enhance a person's what's called performance and recovery. So he'd have him in his room and basically blast him like blue light, green light, and a red light, depending on whatever thing signal that they responded well to it. He would charge people.
They believed in it, so they got better. So
they did.
Technically, it did work for them.
Yeah, but then you're dealing with like natural history and regression to the mean and things like that. Like people can exploit that as well. Like things are going to get better on their own. So like if we employ X intervention for 6 weeks and the thing's going to get better in 6 weeks anyways, then you could be like, oh, look, like it was me and my intervention that got me better, when it was going to get better on its own anyways.
Yeah, I think Menke, I think that's the name, either from 2001 or 2011, did a mediation analysis. So this is when you look at studies and then look at which people got better and look at like the factors that they have, so you can kind of guess what were the factors that make it so that they got better. He calculated there was about like 80% of the improvement from manual therapy was from contextual effects, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's not that it doesn't work. It just doesn't work through those mechanical effects. It's probably more that, you feel like comforted, having someone care for you feels good. Human touch feels good. And I think especially in our society, like a lot of people are not, you ever told someone like, oh man, you just need to get laid. Like we say this, I'm not saying I'm having sex with my patients. I'm just saying
ultimate manual therapy.
You always feel better afterwards. Have you noticed that?
Hey,
it's just that touch feels good, man. I think we're social creatures. If you look at monkeys, they groom themselves constantly. And now that we have shower and technology, like an iPhone and Netflix, we don't get that as much, which is great. But sometimes, it probably has effects on other things where it was useful for.
Yeah, no, I totally agree there. No, that's great stuff. I didn't want to go down the manual therapy, spinal manipulation rabbit hole too far. But that was really cool.
That is a rabbit hole indeed, though.
Yeah. If people are interested, there's one.
You brought it up.
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, like, you brought it up, and as powerlifting coaches, we deal with that. And, you as well, you deal with that all the time, where like people have these like preconceived set of beliefs, and they're usually pretty strong, or sometimes can be very strong. And it's tough to maneuver those situations sometimes, particularly when someone's like, very particular, or they're very set on, a certain thing that they want to do that they think is going to get them better, even though it's like a problem that like continues to occur over and over.
The worst part with it is the fact that they become reliant upon it when it's actually not making any change in anything. And so what happens now, basically, like, you see they start to refer out to me. So if this doesn't help me, this is the problem. In this case, whatnot, this certainly must be helping me. So if the chiropractor is not helping with it, the weights themselves are inherently bad. Whereas maybe what's actually taking place is the person's not sleeping, probably getting shit faced on the weekends, and is overshooting every one of the sessions, which is more realistic, I guess, like a explanation as to what's taking place.
Yeah.
It's
But
like
then you
every
see
time I
some
max
things
out every day, I feel like shit. What's wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's so weird.
I feel like I should have to
So
max out
fucking
these past
weird.
2 sessions, but I admit it to myself. I know why.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And also work, but
Yeah, no, I get it. Like it's also, I think, even if people are aware, like the few times I've been injured in soccer is times where I'm like, hey, you know what? I've literally haven't done this in like months, or I think my first big injury in soccer was like a adductor tendinopathy. And I did the one where the sus machine where you like squeeze your legs
Yes,
together.
the
Like I have quite strong adductors for someone who like doesn't train them specifically, but like basically I maxed the machine and I was like I was feeling nothing, so I added like 90 pounds with like a strap and I was like doing like 15 reps. I was like, damn, this is easy. And then I played 3 soccer games the same day, and then I was like, oh man, this is getting hard to run.
That's just getting
like
rough on my
once.
adductors.
It's like, what an idiot. And then the other time, like I pulled my hamstring after coming back to deadlifting and being like, hey, I can do like 90% of my max, and I haven't deadlifted in like almost like a year.
Yeah.
And I got injured like the next game.
Yeah, that happens to me every time I get hurt. Right after, like I'll try to go back to what I was doing. I was like, oh, I feel good today. Let me try like go back to what I was doing last week, and it gets worse. And it always gets worse.
Yeah. And I think it ties down.
Just
ties
because
to,
you
like, being
can
a
doesn't mean you should.
Yeah, I think it ties back to like what it's like being a coach and a physio. It's like not necessarily that you have like some secret sauce. It's just that I mean, sometimes you do, but it's just that it's also I think the most useful part is having someone to tell you what to do because you're bad at managing yourself.
Yes.
You know,
which is why I hired a coach myself, and I still managed to undermine him. Barely. Oh, horrible.
Let's actually. I mean, we could talk a little bit about injuries, how to manage injuries, when maybe you shouldn't manage injuries. Is that something maybe we could discuss a little bit?
You should manage. Oh, that's a good idea. What do you mean, like when coaches
Passing the
should,
pain
or
of
when
time.
you don't need to consult someone?
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess that would be a good thing for lifters to sort of understand, like, maybe, and I know this is going to be a very case by case basis. Like, when should I know there's not really like a general way to say like how people should go about like managing pain and then knowing when to like maybe seek medical care. But if you could find a way to generalize that, it'd be great.
Yeah. I mean, the main reason you should consult is if you have like neurological symptoms you've never had before. So like tingling, numbness, issues with peeing, like you don't control it, or you have some form of incontinence that you didn't have before. Numbness especially where the thighs are. So what we call like saddle anesthesia. So those are like medical emergencies. If you have like losses of balance, like stuff that like if it sounds like a stroke, you should probably go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Not if my little baby elbow hurts.
Yeah.
Listen, it hurts, right?
Yeah. If it's just
I wasn't even taking a jab at you. My elbow hurts
I'm
too.
pretending to take this jab.
Yeah, but if it's just pain, I think waiting it out like a week, reducing load, or taking like a break is a good idea. If you still have pain after, or actually if it hasn't gotten significantly better, I would consult by then. But a lot of patients, like I see them and I'm like, just wait a week and come back if it still hurts. And it depends. Like if you're a pro athlete, if you have a meet coming up, it might be useful to know like, oh, should I do this meet? Is there something I can do in the meantime? But if you're not crunched for time, I feel like for most things, and that's like a very general rule, waiting a week is probably better, as long as at home you're moving it. So there's some studies that suggest that like doing physio very early on reduces the recovery time. There was one paper on this for ankles, but the advice we give the first week is like, move to tolerance, like avoid the very painful movement the first few days, and try to walk as much as possible, like with a crutch if needed.
If I may talk about an instance where I actually did have to refer outwards. So I had one of my lifters, Wade, in fact. We went through a little bit of a deload, and he got a little bit, antsy and decided to go beltless at like 80 to 85% range. Goes down in a squat, comes back up, and like damn near failed. It manages to recover, re-racks the weight, and immediately reports to me what sounds to me like I want to say is a herniation of some sort, quite serious.
Yeah.
Talking about, I guess, numbness, tingling sensation. weakness. And so we said, let's see what takes place over here. Let's see what happens tomorrow. How you feel? That maintained. They persisted. I was like, okay, at this point in time, this is outside of my scope. I said, we need to speak to DPT. He went out, got checked out by DPT. Found out that he had a very rare condition. In fact, unbeknownst to him, where he had something called a ghost vertebra. So the like a lumbar spine ends at L5. Well, when he's in still an embryo, his body tried producing an L6.
Yeah.
So we have the gel for like the L6 there and whatnot, with no supporting bone structure around it.
Oh shit!
So just free floating. So you have L5, that gap there in between, and then you have the S1.
Isn't that called like a conus or something? Conus medulla. I'm not making that up.
I think you would know better than we would.
Sorry,
I'm not sure what the medical term is, but his DPT at the time called it a ghost vertebra, and it had been rather herniated, so he started working with him. And now it's quite severe, like he legit, the whole thing basically got ruptured. He got checked out, whatever. They gave him cortisone shots. They gave him medical treatment that they needed to, and the doctor throughout the entire thing was like, "All right, this is done." But another week or two, he found a very good DPT to work with. To his credit, like dude just landed on gold, And the guy says to him, "I want you to try working out again." As opposed to what I heard myself, because I have 3 hernia discs, my L4, my L5, S1. It happened to me while firefighting. And I was told I'd never be able to lift heavy again and that kind of stuff. This is back when I was deadlifting 450 pounds. And I deadlift a whole lot more. But, so it comes down to having somebody who's well-versed in strength sports, who's also a physical therapist and whatnot, to help a person get back on the road. And what I've been seeing is that when a coach's scope ends and whatnot, you need to go about finding somebody who's good in this stuff and who has strength sports experience. Because if you go to somebody who's used to dealing with Gertrudes like I did, they're gonna tell you basically shut it down and move on to to other shit, greener pastures. Just something I saw. And happy ending. Wade is back to hitting all-time PRs and that kind of shit. Squad, bench. It's like it never happened.
Nice.
It honestly, it's disconcerting, knowing that he's out there training, whatnot, knowing that, you think about based off the stuff that McGill and these guys would say, having a floating vertebra like that, imagine what's happening, the displacement that could be taking place with a lack of bone structure around there.
Oh man, if a McGill guy got to him, who knows? Who knows what would have happened,
dude?
But can you imagine those bird dog PRs though?
I'm sorry,
huh?
Can you imagine those bird dog PRs though? He fucking.
I bet he could do at least 25.
Have we done that meme where it's like a McGill powerlifting competition and it's just people doing the big 3? I need to meme this.
Why have we not done that?
I don't know.
We've literally been calling it the big 3 for years. And no one has ever thought to make this meme.
Okay, yeah, we'll do a collab on this.
We're gonna have to collab on.
That's awesome. That's got legs.
Powerlifting meets
the new big 3, the actual big 3.
Legit, the actual big 3.
Out of us 4, he'll be thinking the best one.
The bird dog, the plank, and the curl up.
Yeah, buddy. And you can have you can get red lighted for curving your lumbar spine.
If you come out of neutral, even
if your knees touch the ground on the plank.
Oh my god, yeah. If your low back lifts off the floor even a millimeter on the because it's not a dead bug. What's the exercise? Plank.
Yeah, no, it's if your lumbar spine comes up, you're supposed to lift your thoracic spine.
The curl up be like you flex past like a certain degree of spinal flexion.
Yeah, that's it. That's not good. That's how you die, actually.
You actually shit your spine out after that.
That's how that happens.
It's a very violent death. I'm sorry that you're going to have to experience this, but you'll be dead, so it won't matter.
Exactly.
So let's we're already kind of talking about all this stuff anyways, and you mentioned some trigger point stuff that you've gone over recently that was really interesting.
The ORA study.
So why don't we talk about that a little bit, because I know that those are really popular in the powerlifting world as well. Like, not just dry needling, but like all kinds of stuff. Grafton, et cetera, right? So
yeah. I guess the trigger point literature is kind of murky because it kind of depends how you explain the trigger point. So I actually had a meme on this, which I think kind of summarizes the whole debate. But it's like why do you think you have trigger points? It's like that, endless circle. It's like, why do you think you have trigger points? It's like, because it hurts when I press. It's like, what's a trigger point? It hurts when I press. And it keeps going on forever. Because it's like, there's a lot of people who, for them, it's enough. Like if you define trigger points, but like, there's some spots that are sore sometimes and we don't really know why. It's like, yeah, that exists for sure. Where there's a contention is that like the taut band part where it's like, we can actually feel them physically, like, and that the stiffness itself is the bad part, or that there's something chemical linked to it. Because it's like, I don't think we have good evidence of this. There's a lot of people trying to look for like microinflammation, but I'd say at the time it's as good as like the Meridian literature for acupuncture. Like honestly, they're just looking for something, and I don't think it matters either. So I took like a different approach. Me and actually a friend of Mark's and I, very strong guy, like Xini. We did a review of like all the dry needling paper that compared trigger point centered dry needling compared to just sham needling, which is away from the trigger point. And if you look at the literature, they'll say like, oh, it actually makes it a lot better. But if you actually read the studies, either the numbers are like ridiculous, or basically they don't show any difference. So yeah, so there's a couple papers in there that they'll say
like, so you could just needle me anywhere and it might work.
It probably, I mean, the papers that have been done well, or even these papers, if you actually look at the number, I'd say that's what it says. So usually,
question though, right? Because I think we could all agree that like if I were to rub my fingers along my arm like this, right? Yeah. Like I feel certain spots that are maybe more rough than others, or like they're more bumpy, or like, more sore, things like that. Like, do we understand like what those things are at all? Like, let's say like you rub your hand across your back and you come across the sore spot, and there's this like,
it's an inflamed chakra.
No, but seriously, like sometimes there's like a quote unquote like knot in the muscle, right? And you touch it and it hurts, it's sore. Like what's that? Like, do we have any explanation for what that is?
I think it's just that sometimes your finger. So I think what we're complaining is that sometimes your finger just slides off a part that's like stiff, but I don't think it matters. Because like we're humans, we're not like factory made, so it's obvious that there's some parts that are going to feel different.
You're not.
I just don't think that they're necessarily linked to the pain. I feel like once the pain goes, it's probably still going to feel that way. Like taut band. Actually, the inventors of like trigger points, I think one of them was the doctor of John F. Kennedy. I'm pretty sure, actually. Wolf in 1991 did a paper, like one of them. It was Trevor.
I don't care if it's horse piss.
I don't remember who it was. It was like Trevor and Travels and Simmons.
That's so the one quote, of those two. Though. He was like, I don't care if it's horse piss if it works.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. They put one of these guys, the founders, in the paper, and basically they blinded the therapist. So they put like people with pain, people with no pain, and I think it was people with no pain but trigger points or something, and they compared, and basically it was like less reliable than chance. So they did worse than a coin toss at identifying the trigger points when the patients couldn't tell. So that's why I'm saying I don't think there's like something we can feel, like a physical entity that's behind the pain, like a pain locus itself, that's like we can touch and remove or whatever. But there are spots that are going to feel painful, and probably when you have pain, there's more of those, because a zone gets sensitized as a whole. So like if you have a lot of knee pain, your knee as a whole is going to feel stiff, and once the pain decreases, it's going to become more and more focused.
That's fair.
Yeah. They really didn't like that study. They tried to get him to not publish it, but he did publish it because I love that guy. Wolf did a good job.
So who tried to not get it published, if I may ask?
Either Travels or Simmons. They said it was like you got duped or something, but it's like, no, you're just wrong. So one of the inventors of trigger points.
Of course.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, he had a really good theory. Like, it's great that he tried. It's just, I don't think it pans out into the current.
I mean, a lot of people had, McGill had a pretty good theory too.
Yeah. I think most do. It's just
look where that got us, Alexis.
Yeah. And I think sometimes people have really good ideas and just even like their fans run it into the ground. Like even like if you read McGill's blogs, he had like a Greg Lehman article the other day talking about like the biopsychosocial model. Not the other day, like I think it was back when Greg was a student. I don't think they're in that good of terms now, but And whenever you talk about Miguel, people are like, "Oh, he's really nuanced when you talk to him in person." It's just, I think it's when he's on social media, he needs to be like more assertive, and then people also will take his idea.
I was thinking reductionist, but yeah, assertive works.
Yeah. People like don't have as much information. Like, it's kind of like the Dunning-Kruger. They'll go way further than it needs to go because maybe they don't understand it, or they're just more confident because they have just a little bit of information. And I'd say it's even true for us guys. Like, you've probably seen people who are like you'll see someone say like something that could, for me, like you'll see someone saying something that might in like a fifth dimension sound like Nocibic, and then just like 20 people are like ramming against the creator, and they'll tag me. I'm just like, yeah, it's fine. Like, I don't care. It's just, if you get even like a remote amount of like notoriety, people will kind of mimic you, and often people will get really aggressive with your theories. There's zealots everywhere.
That's very true. I know we've seen even is someone as crazy as Naudi.
Yeah.
Right. Oh. Like his followers are like far
They're
worse.
insane.
Dude,
they're far worse.
Mouth frothers.
Who else
They're crazy.
You see that with Goda too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like I'm in a group chat with the Goda guys. Like we had a run into the beginning, but like I think Gary's really cool. Like I don't agree with.
Like they seem really chill and like they don't really give a fuck about what you think about them, But then like some of these like die-hard like smaller accounts, will like they'll offer to fight you to death over the Goda stuff,
Yeah, you'll ask them like, "What's your favorite sexual position?" and they'll be like Goda.
It's the greatest of all time, after all.
IABL, bro. Yeah.
Ankle bone high.
Ankle bone high. Ankle bone high. Yeah.
But yeah,
I
mean, the followers of most cult leaders are a little insane. So
yeah, but even our followers, I don't want to act like we're like above this. Like, we have our minions as well.
I mean, I don't really have you might have followers like that. My followers fucking hate me. They're like waiting for me to post something that they could disagree with. Like everyone's just waiting. I feel like that's the only reason I still have a big following. People are just like waiting for me to post something that they can argue with me about.
They're hate watching.
And then I'm like, please come argue with me because I'm gonna fucking destroy you anyways.
Hang on. Huh? Je sais pas, genre 20 minutes. Oh, it's fine. Yeah, it's my sister. Sorry. Yeah.
No, you're good.
We clap. It just marks the point to edit.
Yeah,
you don't edit me.
Sorry.
His conversation.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
No, but legit. So that kind of stuff. But I've noticed you've actually changed your tone. So I watched the debate that you had in your conversation today, talking about. I think it was you talked about some coach out in Texas, and somebody came out there to defend Westside Barbell, whatever, and went back and forth. The guy, that's a fair point. I guess
I did say that about Westside.
Did that happen today?
I made that the meme of what was it? The Trump mugshot, and I was like, what the hell? It was funny though. I have to pull it up because
many were triggered.
I said. Oh yeah, Mark Ripto, and you tell him the best powerlifters in the world use RPE, and the worst powerlifters in the world don't even use starting strength; they use Westside. People are in my comments like, "You just threw shade on so many people. I don't even know how to respond to this." But yeah, no, there was this one. Every time I post something about Westside Barbell or about starting strength or about anything really, there's someone that comes into the comments and defends it viscerally, like they know, like Mark Ripto's their uncle or something. It's like, but he was like. And I kind of went back and forth with him until I was like, you know what? You kind of have a point. Like, I can't even say, because I mean, 2 years ago, like I would sit here and just argue with you, even if I thought you were right, because I just wouldn't want to admit that like you had a point, I would just argue with you. But like, I don't know, I guess that's growth a little bit. And I just accepted that what he said was valid.
That's a lot of growth.
I think it's because you're too tired to talk to him because you're running the meet today.
That's probably what like I was just busy doing something else, and I was
all these 25s. I mean, all right, bro, you're all right. You're good. You're right.
You're good. Yeah,
I agree. All right.
But it's kind of funny whenever you see these people get really enthused by, defending, like you go on West Side and you got kind of like a panic attack almost. Cause like my big sport is soccer. I've been playing soccer since I was a kid. I played like D1 in Canada, and people will say like, "Hey, soccer is gay." I'm like, fine, it's gay. Like, I don't care. Like, it's like, I still play soccer. Like, what do I care?
Well, the thing is, you're
Like-
normal, like mature adult. I mean, you don't identify with something like that to that extent. With these people, if you challenge Westside Barbell, you're not just challenging, I guess.
Oh,
like,
you're
ideology,
challenging their
You're challenging them, their identity, who they are fundamentally. So that's the problem here. It's the fact that they basically they have the kind of mindset where they identify with these things instead of saying, "I implement this, I use this, and whatnot," but it's not who I am.
And then they become
defines who they
really, really emotional when you start to pick apart
big time.
the things that they identify with, which I guess is understandable.
I've gotten death threats over memes.
Damn.
Death threats over memes, for Christ's sake.
I also think that there's kind of a thing with fitness in general. Like, every like guy that gets remote, like bench 2 plates is like a life coach and a business coach. It's like a whole thing. I think it's just, there's something very ensnaring with the culture of like
they have a financial podcast.
Yeah, that's the thing. And then, it's like, it's either you go, actually, no, I don't know. Either you stop or you become like an alpha male podcast guy. And I think it just has to do with like self.
Drop shipper.
If I can lift 2 plate, maybe billionaires are cool. Like, I don't know. It's like a pipeline almost. Because it's
I totally
to
understand the
strong.
connection.
That is actually a thing.
I mean, I think that might be why, that paper about being a right winger. It's like, if you're stronger, you're more likely to be right wing. I think it's just because you accomplish something
about that little fucking Nazi.
Yeah, but I mean, the numbers are probably just, again, exposing this. It's the same thing as how if you are richer, you're more likely to be more right wing. It's just, if you accomplish something, it's easier to kind of erase all the things that helped you to get there and like forget that
I made me.
Stuff like that.
I mean, pretty much that's what it is.
I'm self-made. Like, even my father thinks that. It's like, bro, you got like a loan from your dad, like who was.
It's like Russell Lowry talk about like how he's like self-made, whatever case is. His mom's like a wealthy lawyer. I'm like, dude, you grew up with a silver spoon up your ass. What was your struggle?
Yeah.
Like, holy shit! Coming up with like material to post on Instagram. That's your struggle. Like, holy shit! No, that's not how it works, man.
He didn't know which headband to wear today. He didn't know which dunks to choose out of his closet full of hundreds
That's
of
not how it
them.
works. So you look at all these self-made billionaires and these guys. Oh, I dare say, without exception, every single last one of them.
I only got a small $1 million loan from my dad to start this business. It's fine. No, but I really don't know where this conversation is going. But you know what? I think we're getting to the point where
It's time for you to go to sleep.
Oh, maybe we can talk about the questions here.
I think we should open the questions up.
Okay.
So,
I mean, you gave us some really good stuff. We've been on the call for quite a while. Let's do like a, 10-minute chat
round.
about these questions. Yeah. I was about to call it a speed round, but it's not, I don't know. We don't have to
speed round.
So
Let's go.
I had a good question here by one of my followers, Danny. He asked what to know or what to do if thinking of possibly pursuing physical therapy career. Like, what would you recommend?
That's good.
If he's in the States, I'd strongly consider the financial implications. It's really not, like, for money, it's not a great career in the States.
I mean, Sophia quit to do online coaching.
There you go. The reason is because it's like a master. You can only charge so much. Like, you can't charge people like $250. And also you can't ramp up. So it's hard to do what's called like time leveraging, which you can do with coaching, right? When I'm with someone one-on-one, which is rare. Usually PTs see like 3 patients at a time. But even then, even if you have a full schedule, it's hard to get to that. You can't charge people like $400 unless you live in LA and you're like an absurd, let's say like a quack, like most.
What if you do
reliable
concierge PT?
You can. Again, it's doable. It's just it's not easy. And like the people you see on social media, like I guess like me and like I'd say like Greg Lehman or people who do concierge service, they're like a very small minority. Most physio.
I wasn't being serious. I should just stop talking.
I mean, I kind of want to do that at one point.
I hope Elliot doesn't listen to this because he's going to think I'm making fun of him.
Yeah. But again, Elliot does it, but he's good at business. It's not like as easy as other jobs. Like, I don't know, like an actuary.
I also don't think doing online PT is as easy as most people think it is.
Yeah, it is hard to get started.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you compare it to other jobs that require less education, it's not very good financially. But if you want to do it, just go. I recommend you go shadow at a few clinics. It might really suck at one clinic. Like I used to hate working as a physio, and then I just became self-employed, and I love it. So it could be very different. Like go to the hospital, go to a neuro rehab center. Don't stick to one field, but definitely go in the field because it's way different. And if you go into it thinking you're going to be a fixer, you're going to be really disappointed. And because most of what we do is just guide people. And again, I'd say almost like 80% of the work is done by the patient. We are very useful for a very specific subset of patients, which I think really need us, but in most cases, we're mostly guiding people. So, at the beginning of the career was a kind of discouraging finding that, in school, they basically lied to you. They're like, oh, you're fixing that guy. You have magic hands. Everything's fine. It works like in the books. It doesn't. It's complicated. Pain is complex. We are like at the dawn of the science.
Humans are complex. That's
yeah. But if you think about it, if you trace it like the same way we did for medicine, it would be like basically like at the Hippocrates like level where we have the humors and all that, and we're like basically putting stuff up people's asses. So it's not we're getting much better. It's it has a basis in science, but it's just it'll probably be amazing in 100 years compared to now.
You're probably right about that.
We're at least not boofing yogurt at people's asses anymore.
Well, it's funny. Like this is completely unrelated, but kind of related at the same time. I was listening to Iron Culture the other day, and they had Dr. Andy Galpin on there. He's a professor out of in Australia. I cannot remember the name of the university. But he was basically talking about, he does a lot of, he specializes in like muscle fiber types. So he does a lot of biopsies in his lab. And he was like, he was like, I just want everyone to understand like how crude of a science, like muscle, taking muscle biopsies, like testing, all these things that we're doing in my lab right now are still like, we're still in the dark ages, basically. He's like, in another 10, 20, 30 years, he's like, we're going to be so much further along, but like, you guys still have to understand that we really don't, like, we don't have good ways to measure this stuff. We don't really know, we don't have, and he was even talking about how like, he's like, a lot of our understanding of this stuff is based off like one or two studies with like 8 people in it from like 1940. He's like, and it's like, he really, like, it's a very long and thorough, deep podcast, but it's really cool. It just makes the point of like, a lot of this stuff is still in its infancy, Yeah. Okay. So that segues into, I guess, the best follow-up question here is, why are memes the best form of communication?
I don't think they are. We are trying to change people's mind. I think we just make the people who agree with us laugh.
I don't think that's what people wanted to hear. Just
yeah. They were funny though. I think it's just funny, and a lot of people are frustrated in our field, so I think it's just like a good relief. But again, I think people mistake when they think we're trying to change the world with their memes. It's more like, it's going to rain regardless. You might as well enjoy dancing in the rain. Yeah.
You ever seen
honestly, I have to say that nothing else, but like Mark's memes when I first discovered Certified Personnel Truths actually won me over. I guess like to the whole like the nuance of pain thing. But prior to that, like I was like, like clearly I'm hurt over here. Maybe I need some like some.
Then Yili unfollowed me.
I did because of the West Side Barbara bullshit, which he now roasts, by the way.
I did. I went through my West Side phase, and Yili was like, "Fuck this dude."
I was like, I'm telling him exactly what he needs to hear here. This is not the way. And he got so close. And I was like, I don't know. I guess I give up on this guy.
But you got to account all the people.
And now here we are. We have a podcast together.
Yes.
Yeah. But again, I'm saying, we change people's minds with memes sometimes, but also there's other people who probably they find it offensive and they change their mind in the wrong way.
I think we probably piss more people off.
Yeah, I think it cancels out.
Then we change their minds. I feel like we've brought in a lot of people, at least into the, I don't even want to call it the evidence-based community. I don't know, like the progressive meme fitness space. I don't even know how to describe it, but I definitely have gotten a lot of messages over the years like, hey, I used to follow Squat U religiously. I used to do all the stuff. And then I started following your meme page, and like I stopped doing all that stuff and I started listening to you, and like my whole life has changed. Like I've gotten that message.
Now.
Huh?
They take meth now.
I didn't say it changed for the better, Mark. What the fuck did your meme page do to me? No.
I went from Facebook to Faces of Meth.
No, but I've also gotten just as many, if not more, messages from angry people that were like, "How dare you? Don't you know that Aaron Horschig has a doctorate? Don't you understand that he's a physical therapist?"
The vast majority of people he gets like that aren't actually coming at him because of his PT posts as much as they are about the training methodology posts. That's his training methodology posts.
He's even triggered over them now.
No.
Listen to him. He can't even form a sentence.
They've gotten him lambasted. They've got him lambasted on podcasts by some very popular coaches out there.
Yeah. Mark Daugherty is a bad coach because he makes memes and I don't like them.
Yeah. And because he doesn't have 500 plus dots, despite the fact that I certainly don't.
Neither does the person that fucking stated that shit.
That's what I'm referencing, by the way.
Anyways. Fuck that.
Anyway.
So what else we got for questions? We got any more for the speed round?
Let me see.
What's Mark's squat plug size PR?
Radius and centimeters, please.
I'm waiting.
Yeah.
We measured it at 23 centimeters once.
Oh, centimeters. That's crazy.
So somebody was asking here. I don't know if this is something that's what you call it in your wheelhouse, but the effects of nicotine on strength sports. Asking for a friend.
I'm not aware. I just know nicotine is a stimulant and it can dilate your airways in the short term.
I remember
technically a nicotine patch, but if you take like cigarette, it might probably cancels out because of the smoke, which does DE.
I've heard opposite of that. Well, I mean, apart from it gets like having obvious issues with your lungs. But Greg Knuckles went on a podcast and I actually was talking about how that's crazy, how ergogenic nicotine actually can be. So you have a little bit of a nicotine in your system. And actually, it's up there with.
I mean, it gives you that rush, right? It gives you a rush.
It does.
I'm going out and buying nicotine.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's a stimulant.
Just imagine this: you get addicted to cigarettes to hit yours in the gym.
You're like, guys,
you can just take Zins, bro. You don't have to take
it. Take Zins.
Maybe that's why French powerlifters are so strong.
Yeah. That's what Panda does. Before Panda grinds out a 12
I wouldn't be surprised.
He goes out, he's like, hold on, I need to go fucking cigarette. I will be right back.
But you know that deadlift setup where they kind of rub their foot on the ground? It looks like they're squashing a cigarette.
Yeah. Let me stomp out my butt. All right, so if you could wear a random object around your neck like a padlock, what would it be and why? And don't show us the padlock you're already wearing. I want to hear a fun hypothetical here.
Probably like $1 million because I could take it off and have $1 billion.
Would we? That's fair. Would you wear like a Flava Flav style clock encased in diamonds?
Yeah. So if I become really famous and I have like enough money to make like my dream necklace, what would I make?
That's a good way to reframe it.
Probably some like obscure, like what's the cross of Anubis or something? Just because people could ask me like, "Oh, are you like spiritual or do you have like a third eye?" And I'd be like, "No."
Ooh,
I think it's the cross of Seth. It's called
an Ankh, right? Ankh.
An Ankh, yeah, that's it.
Yes. You have an Ankh and be like, "Oh, are you spiritual?" You just say no, just to troll people.
No, and just leave. Yeah.
I would like a big like medallion with like Sisyphus like pushing the fucking boulder up a hill. Like,
that's
oh my god, that's so funny.
I would have a big squat plug about 23 centimeters.
Yeah, just in case.
So he could conveniently stick it. No.
Yeah, pretty practical.
All right, that's my cue. No. Yeah.
Q means ass in French, by the way, so it's kind of funny that you said that.
That's a squat plug to your cue. I'll be here all week, folks.
Oh man. All right. Well, I mean, I don't want to keep you all night. I know it's getting late. You're at the chalet.
Yeah, keeping my family up.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Alexis' sister. Anyways, that's I guess that will conclude our episode for the night. Thank you so much for coming on. I highly appreciate it. I appreciate all the knowledge you dropped on us tonight.
Yeah, seriously. So, would you mind telling us what your socials are so the audience can hear?
Yeah, I'm on No Bullshit Physio on all platforms. And I talked about a lot about spinal manipulations. If you Google on YouTube, I have one on vertebral subluxations that goes into depth about it. And I have another one where I compare the forces of a deadlift with the forces of a spinal manipulation. So I've got a lot of this.
I'm sure everyone listening would be interested to see that. So that's really cool.
Spoiler alert, there's more force during it.
No, you don't say.
Yeah, crazy, right?
I would actually think it was the manipulation.
But what if we push in with our thumbs very hard?
Yeah, what about it? So if you guys want to look at that, there's a lot. And there's my educational guides on Instagram. And I have like a subscription program now. So like basically I have like my little mentees that I mentor kind of.
Oh, that's cool.
And like they ask me about studies and I kind of just do my thing and review them for them, and I have like exclusive content. It's not me naked. It's literally just me. Studies.
Not that type of exclusive.
Unfollowed.
All right.
No, but honestly, like besides Greg Lehman, I mean, Alexis is he's a close second for the GOAT of physical therapy at this point.
Bring it down. That's
come on, you're getting there. You're gonna
one day. All right. Thanks for having me.
All right,
guys.
dude. For sure. Have a good night, man.
Have a good one. Bye.